the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Clint, how are you?
I'm good.
We woke up this morning. It is raining. It is so foggy, and it smells like a forest outside.
Which is so weird because living in the desert, like you don't expect it to smell like a forest.
But it's the first time we've had this much rain in a really long time.
I know, like just in the past 24 hours, it's been more rain than we've had all year.
You know, when I'm talking to clients or when I have somebody show up in one of my inboxes, a lot of the times it's to vent or, expressing something that's going on, especially when they're a first responder. And one thing that I've heard a lot of people say is things are going to get better once I promote. And I thought that we can talk a little bit about how that's such an unhealthy mindset to have and so many reasons why.
And not only that, especially as you promote, dynamics shift, dynamics change, and I've been seeing that as the higher I climb in the structure is you run into different problems, and if you're always hoping for that change and you're not affecting that change, you're going to see that happen more and more.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that almost psychological trap that a lot of people get stuck in when it comes to that promotion illusion. There's a psychological concept. It's called hedonic adaptation. And a lot of us might have heard of something similar when people win the lottery and they're so excited. And then we hear people who, I feel like there's more stories than not of the people that end up with less money than they had before they even won the lottery. It seems insane how that happens so often, but it's actually something that's built into us because humans really quickly return back to their baseline level of satisfaction after any kind of positive or negative change.
Yeah, you start, and that's a perfect example for it. You start, overspending, and you start always striving for that next goal, that next step, and you're not focused on the now. You're always reaching for something else, and if you're not happy in the now, how are you ever going to be able to achieve that just by trying to either promote or, like you said, have that extra money?
Yeah, and this includes promotions. I'm thinking of a couple of people who at different departments have applied for promotions, and a lot of the times, the politics get involved and somebody else gets that position instead of you. And I'm also thinking of somebody who has applied for different jobs and they didn't get that job. And in both scenarios, eventually we kind of lick our wounds because sometimes we feel the need to. And then we might reapply for that same position or reapply for a better one or a better job. And that's the whole point of discussing this sort of baseline that we return to.
Yeah, you're always, and it's always good to look forward to something to strive for, to work for. But then at the same time, when you're always trying to change the situation that you're in because of your unhappiness, or you're not able to find that happiness, that point for yourself, you're deflecting it pretty much.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different signs that might show us if you're stuck in that promotion illusion. I'm thinking of one of your partners in particular, Clint, who I have never heard him say this, but I imagine that he has said it several times. Once I get there, then things are going to calm down.
Yeah, I hear that a lot too, just within the promotional ranks, is you see people thinking, okay, I'm going to change this when I promote. And then they promote, and you're always moving that bar. You're always moving that goal of trying to affect that change. But if you're not actually a part of the change and trying to strive for that goal, you're always going to get implicated into it.
Yeah, the truth is that each new step comes with more responsibility and not relief. I'm thinking of your new detail. I'm thinking about all of the things that shifted when you got into it. And it's easy to compare things to what you were doing before, but there are so many other things that have been able to kind of play a role in the time that you have now to be able to devote to other things within your role. And it hasn't made anything any less than. It might have made things a little bit more cumbersome, not in a bad way, because you enjoy the things that you now have more time to be able to do. But I think it's important to recognize that if we're using that as an excuse for how things feel right now, that we're just waiting on that thing to happen, it can be very unhealthy, because that thing might not happen, first of all. And the outlook of things being more chill, more kickback, like more desk work or whatever you think it's going to be, it's probably not going to be the case.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example, like for me specifically, like, apart from my schedule shifting and that change happening, which did alleviate a lot of pressure and like exhaustion that I was facing, but I moved into that new position, but it created new dynamics, and it has a whole different world and feel compared to how it used to be. And in recognizing that, like, it doesn't free up time. It actually takes up more time, but it's in a good, healthy way. And it's all in how you look at it and your mindset is on it.
When people come to me and they have this going on in their life, something that this tells me is that they're motivated by escape and not their purpose. And a lot of the times promotions might feel like the only way out of the chaos, but the chaos is always going to follow you.
Yeah, it's when you're in that chaos, it is going to follow you, but you're not going to, if you're always chasing that next goal, that next promotion, and you're not focused on like what you're doing in this moment, like you're not going to have that worthwhileness for yourself to be able to affect that true change that you want to make.
At one point when I worked for somebody else, I remember specifically, like, I don't know, being young and naive, and I had, school and all these other things going on. And then eventually I used me starting my business and then utilizing time at that place of work to be able to start my own. But I used all these things as excuses as to why I still stayed there. But I remember very specifically, it would not have mattered how many thousands of dollars that person threw at me, how many bonuses that I got. Nothing there ever felt like it was an achievement or like a reward. It literally just felt like another day.
Yeah. And especially like going back to that, you had those experiences to where, like it's making excuses for yourself to say, okay, it's okay to do this. I'm striving for this goal. I'm reaching for it. Ultimately, everything worked out phenomenally. But in that instance, when you're working, especially for somebody else, you're getting them to reach those goals. You're not reaching them yourself.
And here's what it took for me. And I think that there's a lot of ways for us to be able to kind of get out of this when we're stuck in it and prevent that kind of burnout. And so for me, what it took was shifting from achievement to alignment and really asking myself, is this position something that's aligning with my values or just my ego? And a part of my ego was, okay, this is comfortable. It's cush. Like I can still do my own thing. I had, I would get there at like 5 a.m, sometimes earlier, and I would have like 3 hours that were just mine to be able to do whatever I wanted to. And so like those were the things. And when I decided to stop all of that and then start working for myself, that is really the only time in my adult life to where I felt like what it was that I did for work actually aligned with me, Ashley. And the main reason for that is because I get to call the shots on things that I deem to be aligned with my values and all of the other things. So let's say that I want to pause work, right? Like this week, I completely paused work. We had an event to go to politically. And so the entire day I was able to just plan around that and literally spend the entire day getting myself ready and, preparing food and doing other things for the event. And that might not seem like it aligns with values, but that particular event is something that I was incredibly passionate about because of my political values. And so I think that when we shift from achievement to alignment, it really makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's something that I tell my guys all the time that, we're, especially being cops, it's the thing we run into all the time is these are the problems. These are all the concerns and problems that we have, but we don't ever want to find solutions for ourselves. We just say, oh, this is how we've always done it. Or I don't want to put in the work to affect that change. And that's one thing that I'm really big on is when my guys bring up a problem to me, I go, okay, so how are we going to change it? And it's getting them invested into it to say, okay, now I'm actually looking at this from an outside in perspective compared to just this is happening to me. And they start getting invested into changing those dynamics.
We've had several really tough love, very difficult conversations with one of our friends recently. And it's all about developing inner metrics for success and measuring your growth by character, integrity, your peace, and not your pay grade. And sometimes that means walking away completely. And I know how hard that is to do. I did it, but sometimes that is the light. That is the path that a lot of people need to go.
Yeah, having that realization, even though it's hard to hear, hard to deal with, it's something that once it does happen and you get into your new normalcy, it's life-changing.
Yeah, burnout doesn't fade with a title. It heals with your boundaries and reflection and rest, really. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.
Life doesn't pause when you're sick. Vaccines against respiratory illnesses can help protect you and give you more playtime with your best friend. Depending on age and health status, vaccinations for flu, COVID-19, RSV, or pneumococcal infection may be recommended. Vaccines can help keep you from having a rough time. Learn more at cveep.org/vaccines-protect. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and CVEEP, fighting infectious respiratory disease.